live streaming service.
Who
What's
was on our
that?
last show? Who was on our last show?
Oh yeah, who was that?
Whoa.
Good show.
Oh yeah, who was the last show? Oh, last show was a rerun. Tommy Chong.
No.
Oh yeah,
Oh, Rudy,
wanna
Rudy
thank Tommy
Sarzo
for his
before that.
Sarzo.
Rudy
gotta say
Sarzo and
Sarzo.
Jack
Rerun, right?
Barksdale.
it was good.
Oh yeah, Jack Barksdale. Yeah, Rudy.
That was incredible.
Be sure to check our YouTube for clips.
Yes.
That
okay.
kid is so badass.
Oh my God, I blew my mind. That guy.
So you guys remember, this is the week after Thanksgiving right now.
Dude, I'm so full. I just
Today.
big. Oh my
That
God.
I literally did
No, it's
have
a
a
whole week,
Friendsgiving
isn't it?
potluck dinner last night.
We don't
So
have
I
to
did
skip
it.
a year. That's all we have to say. Yeah. Thanksgiving was
I got tryptophan in my body right now from eating turkey yesterday.
What did you bring, Kenny? What did you bring?
Wine. I didn't have any time. I would have made the guacamole.
brought
but I got
mushrooms.
invited at the last minute. So I grabbed a bottle of wine on the way there and they appreciated it. You know, I got them a Pinot local Chateau Grand Travers.
What do you think, Mark? Are we live?
No,
I mean, is it not live, but are we being captured?
What are we live?
Double
We
live.
are.
Oh,
Well, guys, what do you think? This is the post-Thanksgiving show. Should we start it? Everybody ready?
I'm too fat from eating so much.
I've got to go grab a water. I got all that the turkey dried me out. Hold on.
So remember,
All right.
don't say the Hollywood Bowl was great yesterday.
exactly. Hey, a couple weeks ago, that was so good.
Great.
All right,
We're
you guys.
well- we're well
I think
over
it's
that.
time. Are we good?
Yeah, this is gonna be kinda tricky.
This is gonna be tricky.
We got a hell of a show. Hey, let's start it. Here we go. Here we go. Ready? We're off.
Tap, 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 tap.
Boom.
The Rock and Talk Show, Beyond Backstage, with your hosts, Norwood Bishop, Kenny Olson, Scott Page, Stephen Perkins, Sheila Conlon, and David Moss.
And welcome to the Rock and Talk Show. This is, believe it or not, show number 66. I'm the Moss Man. Let me quickly introduce my amazing co-hosts. We got Stephen Perkins up here from Jane's Addiction and Porno for Pyros, Scotty Page, Pink Floyd, Toto, Supertramp, the lovely and the one and only Sheila Conlon from the Conlon Company, Norwood Fisher from Fishbone, Trulio Disgracious, and last but not least, my brother Kenny Olson, the legendary guitarist, Twisted Brown Trucker Band, Kid Rock, Experience Hendrix. Happy first show back from Thanksgiving. How's everybody doing? We all good?
Yeah, yeah. Good time.
Trip to
family
fame.
time, the best of times. The best of times.
I think
Yeah.
I'm just recovering from like the most amazing meal and then several days of the same food over and over again for the next few days.
Okay.
There's nothing like it, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, welcome
And
back.
What number show is this?
this is number 66.
Ooh,
We've done 66
it's
shows.
the devil's
together.
show.
You like
Devil
dipping
show.
the AARP show in.
And,
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
and by the way, this is our first show back since Perk, like a little over a week ago at the Hollywood Bowl, finished and closed
Yeah.
out 30 plus shows with Jane's Addiction and the Smashing Pumpkins. Dude, congratulations. It was so
Thank you.
amazing. It was so incredible. The Hollywood Bowl was just off the charts.
Thank you. The best part of the whole tour was having you guys at different shows throughout the tour. Denver and Detroit, Nashville and Hollywood.
New
I love
York.
playing music with my friends in the building. So
Yeah.
it was great. It was just wonderful. I can't wait to do it again.
And I can't
And it
tell,
was
I gotta
so
tell
awesome.
you, Kirk, that Denver show, you guys sounded so good.
Thank
I
you.
was blown.
Thank you.
This was the first time I'd seen Jane's live, and I was like blown away. And your drums sounded like freaking cannons in that.
Thank you. Thank
yeah.
you. Cheers, man. Thank
It's so
you.
good.
I got to send you some of the pictures I got of you in Detroit when you're up there. I tried zooming in because you have me right up front there. So I do have a couple of great pictures to send you.
I'm
I
just,
was
I'm just happy
you were
were
up there
there.
rocking your moment. I keep forgetting to send them to you.
No rush, but thank you so much. And Norwood, when Norwood was there, we had a thunderous night, and I kept thinking the Woods in the audience feeling it, so that made me feel good.
Bro, I so loved every moment. It was, and I just, all these memories just kept swirling of, you know, and of the various stages of seeing Jane's addiction grow, and then the first Lollapalooza, and, you know, like it's it's like of course you guys killed it, and just seeing you and Eric is.
Yeah,
I've said it before, and there is no one who could replace Eric. And what you guys create together,
the wall of sound is incredible.
Is mind bending, and I watched it move bodies from being me and Bob Forrest in the back of the Palace, just watching girls dance. And that's you and Eric moving asses.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And like Nora was saying too, and like, you know, seeing you guys back in the day, because, you know, we're all going through rock and roll boot camp together, like that show in Detroit, it was like, you guys were just killing it, but you brought back that old like edge shit that we had back in the day, like when you did like, you know, Tripping Away, when all that you pulled out the old school stuff, the way Perry was interacting and talking about St. Andrews in the old day, and it was just like, I mean, I felt, you know, like 30 some years younger.
And you know what was really cool?
Cool
was in Denver too, was trippy. There wasn't one person sitting the whole show.
All the shows, all the shows that I saw, nobody was sitting, including at the Hollywood Bowl, all the way to the top. But listen, you guys, we gotta thank our last guest, Rudy Sarzo, Quiet Riot, Ozzy, Rudy, Jack Barksdale, unbelievable. Tonight, though, tonight, we are blessed and honored to have with us one of the founding members of Jefferson Airplane and Hot Tuna, the one and only Jack Casady. Thank you, Jack, for joining us on the Rock and Talk Show. What an honor.
Jack.
Great to be here.
Welcome.
We're so happy to have you.
How are you?
Does everything work?
Yep, sounds great. Yep.
Technology holds.
Can I got a note here?
You got.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Oh yeah,
with the bass. I love it. Talk about that bass for a second.
What is that?
All right.
That's a Gibson.
This here is my namesake bass. It is not a signature bass. It is a Jack Casady bass. And I was gladly a gentleman named Michael Lawson, my dear friend. He's a publisher and does all kinds of things.
Yep.
Working in the late '90s with Gibson and Epiphone, and there's a whole story involved with this. And if you want to get into it, but in any case, he hooked me up with Epiphone and Jim Rosenberg, and I wanted to make this bass. I wanted to make a good acoustic bass guitar, semi-hollow body acoustic bass guitar. And I had played like most of us. I started out playing at 16, 1960. I started regularly playing the first year issue of the jazz bass. I wish I had that bass today.
Wow.
In any case, concentric pots, you know the deal, you know, 2 pickups. And I played solid body basses, you know, I played that bass, that jazz bass. I did a little modification to it. I took a P pickup and jammed it up by the neck here on that bass.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Bass. And but that, I mean, not on that early one. That's 1960 was a bona fide 1960 jazz bass. First year it came out. But when I went out to San Francisco in 1965 at Yorm, my good old high school buddy pals, Yorm McAlkin's request, and we started the Jefferson Airplane, I got my bass stolen at a gig just before I left. And so I arrived to do the gig with no bass, you know. So I borrowed the other guy's bass. They fired him and they hired me. It's a
Whoa,
That's amazing.
and
see, so a good thing turned into
so
a
I
bad
went
thing
down
turned
to
into a good thing.
I went down to Satterley and Chapin in San Francisco and got the new 65 jazz bass. And of course they had changed it. You know, they made one pot and two tones, and mixed them together like that. And I always liked the concentric pot because you could really work that out of phase business with the pickups, you know. And so I took that bass and I ordered they could still get, you know, concentric pots. I ordered 3 concentric pots, and I got a P bass pickup, the offset pickup, and just jammed that right up by the neck here. And then I had the 2 regular pickups in there, and that's what I used to record the first 3 Jefferson Airplane albums. Jefferson Airplane Takes Off, Surrealistic Pillow, and After Bathing at Backstage.
Surrealistic Pillow. Wow.
I remember when I met you first time in the early 90s, you had that, was that one of the first gold ones, the bass with your model?
Yeah. And if it was the early 90s, what happened much later on, there's a bunch of stuff that happens in between where I got the Starfire, a semi-hollow body. When I discovered that, there's a whole story with that, with a versatone amplifier. It's right here. Hold on. Wait a second.
That room is just awesome. Just like looking at the room, you have the best backdrop.
Oh, there it is.
That I bought up the hill here in Burbank from Bob Hall, 1967. In any case, I went back to playing solid body basses and modulus. A couple of went to Jeff Gould and did a couple of things there with trying to be manly, going with a 35-inch scale, which after a while killed the tendons in the back of my hands, so I went back to 34-inch scale. But trying a bunch of different things. And I was in New York. Yorm and I were doing a gig in New York, and it was about 1985 or 6. And staying where? The Chelsea Hotel. And, and,
the Chelsea.
Legendary,
to say the least. And we were, I'm glad to say, or sorry to say, we were part of that infamy. But anyway,
well, you guys have a song about it.
Yeah, there's that. And the next door was the Chelsea Music Store, and it was a find. This is back in the days when you could find stuff like that, you know, just a little tucked away stores, you know, where they were unique to themselves, and the owner would collect instruments, and you'd find good deals and stuff. So anyway, I walked in there and I saw this instrument in the window, and it was a gold top Les Paul bass, and I had a single pickup, just you know, basically set up like this, and I played it, and I thought, wow, why didn't I know about this? You know, because it was, the unique thing about it was, instead of like the Guild Starfire that's got a block of wood down the center like most semi-hollow bodies do, to keep it from so-called feeding back. This just had a block, has a thin block of wood. It's not poplar pine, something almost like balsa wood, and it's fluted and really light, and it's just about 5/8 of an inch thick, and it's cemented to the back of the bass. But you still have an actual acoustic bass guitar. There's still hollowness inside the instrument itself. So I started playing. I really loved the tone. And we played it for a few years, but it was deficient in the pickups. There was at that time when we had a lot of other people playing with us on stage, and particularly, and you can identify with this, with a keyboard player on board. You had a lot of your low ends eaten up by those other.
Frequencies clash,
particularly in the mad '80s keyboard days, and indeed, and so. I was losing clarity when there's too much traffic going on stage, you know. But I like that holy body tone. But when I played it by myself, it was gorgeous. So anyway, a few years passed by, and I approached Gibson I said, listen, I like this. Well, first I talked to Walter Carter at Gibson, the man who knew everything about Gibson. And I said, when did this bass come out? I didn't know about it. And I said, because it was a 34-inch scale, unlike the short scale Guilds were. And that's why I stopped playing the Guilds, you know, really sweet sound, really sweet on the high end, but after a while, you couldn't really get that gank down on the low end, So, gank is a word, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Just checking. And so,
Jesse Jackson would say so.
Typically used in other contexts, but certainly can relate to music.
Let's not
Yeah.
go stray afield here. And so I approached Gibson, but they weren't interested. They told me, Jack, if they make this instrument, it's going to be then in 1970, 97, this was. It's going to be a $3,500 instrument made in Nashville, and nobody's going to buy it. I think because, as we all know, bass players second cousin of the guitar players. The stepchild, the one that never gets full whack. So but Mike Lawson said, listen, why don't you talk to Jim Rosenberg at Epiphone, because they're revamping that whole company. They're really bringing back a lot of the instruments out of the 40s and 50s. That the Epiphone had a big name back then. Mm-hmm. So I talked to him, and I said, and I talked to Jim Rosenberg. I told him what I want to do. I wanted to build this bass again, but I wanted to do the electronics myself. And we talked for a little while, and he says, I'll go for it. I'll go for it, because if it's made by their Korean factory, which really made gorgeous instruments, we can get it out on the market for much less and make it viable. I said, well, my main object here, not only after I get the bass the way I want it, but I want to put a semi-hollow body instrument in young people's hands where they can afford it. I said, there's something to be said for it. I've always chased the stand-up bass. I mean, since the days when I was late 1958, 59, 60, sitting in front of Charles Mingus and jazz clubs in Washington, D.C. with his double bass, which was huge. It was the 70s bass. This wasn't any puny 3/4 bass.
And then that had the DC Go-Go thing going on too.
And Scotty LaFaro and all these guys that I really loved. I love jazz, but I love the tone and the acoustic quality of the instrument. And of course, I wasn't getting it out of a solid body electric bass guitar, but I always chased that kind of sound. And so he went for it, and I said, but I want it to be available, to be price-wise. So it ended up being around $700, $600. I think it's still $700 or $800 today, which is amazing in today's world. But to get the craftsmanship like this is, all the wooden detail. This is the anniversary model, and 20-year anniversary model, I'm proud to say. And but I went down to Nashville for 2 weeks with their famous pickup man JT Ribeloff, and I went in there just like a bloke, and got up at 6 a.m, was in the shop by 10. I need a couple hours, and in the shop by 10, and we worked until 6 or 8 at night. And we did just what I used to do with Rick Turner, may he rest in peace, that later on became Olympic when I made my first Olympic #1, and go up at the shop and wind pickups and try different combinations out and different magnet combinations and whatnot, and came up with the sound that I wanted. And believe me, it took a while. It took about a year. Because I remember with my dear, sweet, late wife, Diana Balfour Casady, she passed away 10 years ago. We were up there. I was up in the attic when I had a Tascam machine, 8-track, and I was every pickup that would come in, I'd try the different pickups and combinations of windings that we had, and to see if I could get the sound to come up right and the way I wanted before I'd okay it. So, and then I was getting to be about a year. They were getting pretty antsy, and I said, I said to Diane, Diane, it's just not right. It's just not the way I want to hear it. And I was just getting scared. And she said, Jack, if it's not right, don't put your name on it. So we did some investigating. We found out, we got the prototype to sound right. That's true. And I loved it. the prototype was all kind of hand put together, and then they sent it off to Korea, and it came back, with their first production model, and it just sounded tinny. It was thin, really thin up the top, with no, with no meat on.
Yeah. You need that with all that beautiful melodic stuff that you do up there.
You want the meat on the high notes. You want to get some.
It's amazing, like hearing you tell this whole story, because honestly, what I was going to say to you is your tone is honestly, I think, one of the most amazing bass tones in all of music. Like
I tell people, and I'll get to this in a little bit about tone, but anyway, I was heartbroken that the production model looked great, everything's great. So I said, I don't get it. Here I've got the one that's all taped up, and that works great, and this one doesn't. And then so Jim said, let me go back into the manufacturing and talk to those guys again. We found out that they were measuring when they took the prototype. We sent it out there for them to put into ironclad production form, that they were doing their measurements wrong. And they were measuring, as we all talk about, and some people deny this, the sweet spot of the speaking length of the string. And that's where I wanted to put the pickup. And I wanted that pickup to have the most facility for hand dynamics. These things, not knobs.
Yeah.
Bass doesn't come from a knob. It comes
dynamics,
from things, guys. And so, as Jorma likes to say, my left hand is what I know. My right hand is who I am.
Yeah.
That's great.
Right.
Ask you a quick question.
Sure.
As a drummer, when you started playing, drummers were dynamic because they played with pianos and upright bass players and horns, and then rock and roll infused the amplifiers. The drummer had to change his dynamic and kind of get away from some of that, kind of embracing the dynamic and kind of getting the punch.
Well, that's interesting. That's a really interesting observation.
Yeah, and you saw it change, right? And you were part of that change, because rock drummers sometimes will lose dynamics.
Unfortunately, I mean, there's an upside and a downside to that.
Yeah,
I'll talk to you about that a little bit. That's fascinating. So anyway, we found out that measurements were wrong, and the way they were measuring the pickup and placing the pickup, it was just off by a quarter of an inch or something like that.
Wow.
And they moved it back, and all of a sudden, the harmonics all lined up in a row.
Wow.
Yeah.
Up like that.
It's
and
so amazing.
Finally printed, and so that's the long-winded story of
Can we hear
so
it?
amazing how little tiny subtleties of things can make such a difference, especially when
it does though. It's every little fine detail. That's why every guitar is its own unique piece.
Let's hear it. Give us a little something if you feel like it, and then let's go back to Perk's observation afterwards.
So I like to, when you're playing by yourself and when you're able to, and you're not working where you've just got to cut through, I work up here a lot because I want to hear those overtones develop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
Yes.
I wish I had my guitar in my hand and I was in the room with you.
Wow.
And shit like that.
I
That's
love the
beautiful.
drummer on that. That was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I think
I could hear
I
us
know,
all
that's what I mean. I
playing.
could feel the whole groove. the
Oh,
whole-
yeah.
what's-
I felt
I
all
do.
of us in the room for a minute
That's
there.
the thing, I do a lot of teaching at the Yorba Calkin and Fairpeace Ranch in Southeast Ohio for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And I've been doing some online teaching too. That was naturally like a lot of people that during the pandemic started a lot of this. And but it's interesting when you teach to. I was talking with Yorma about this a lot. We discuss it a lot, of course. And the great news is, I mean, last night I found something on YouTube where I wanted to relearn Just a Gigolo and Louis Prima. I was
Yep.
talking to
Oh,
my
one of my favorites.
girlfriend Deborah about how the fact when I was 16, and I got some pictures up here of me, all the bands that I played in back in DC, we all had 3 saxes. It was a bari sax, it's a tenor sax, doubled on alto. There's usually a horn, and in all the club works, I was 16 years old, going in, playing 4 or 5 nights a week in these clubs in DC. There was just tons of clubs, but they were adult clubs. You wore a tuxedo, plaid tuxedo, a bow tie, and you played Louis Prima, you played Ray Charles, you played Bobby Blue Bland. That's the kind of stuff, The adults, everybody be dressed up, the girls be dressed up to the max, the guys would be. That's the kind of clubs they were. And so I was thinking, I was telling about that, and I looked up, and I downloaded a bunch of Louis Prima stuff and tried to remember all this stuff. Now I was playing guitar then a lot, and then I started switching over to bass at 16.
Yeah.
And and I was learning last night. It's available on YouTube, Just Gigolo.
Just a gigolo.
And Just a
Did
Gigolo.
you say low?
I ain't got nobody.
Nobody cares for me.
Exactly.
It's
Now, if you're on the East Coast,
Take it away,
that's
Sam
what's going on.
Butera.
And
Sam
Sam
Butera,
Butera
right?
and the Witnesses. I mean, give me breaks.
One of the great saxophone players, all
Yeah.
that Louis Prima stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sam
God, and I was
Butera.
just
Sam
talking-
Butera is a good friend of ours who's working with Sheila right now. Uncle Angelina.
His niece is in the room next to me right now.
There you go.
Wow.
My favorite saxophone players of all
That's
time. man.
unbelievable. So
Unbelievable.
small world there.
it was, so I downloaded a bunch of stuff, and I put them on. And while I'm working out, because next to my mixing board is a full gym over there, buddy. So
That's amazing.
leg pressing 400 pounds, guys.
Well,
Hey,
the one
You
thing with
just rode-
Deej,
and you just got your 30, 60 mile ride in this morning too,
Yeah,
right?
No, that wasn't this morning. It was on a Sunday. It was gorgeous.
right on.
So, in any case, but so much stuff's available. It's really great. Now I get to be an old guy and bitch and moan some. Because with the territory, I've earned it. So,
You have earned it.
Yeah.
I was
Legendary
talking- when I'm
status.
talking with students, and they want to know, part of a career, different things I played, different songs, and all that kind of stuff. I was telling you, Armin, how difficult it is, or what a challenge it is to teach somebody to learn and not show them.
Yeah.
They want to be shown. They don't want to waste time.
Yeah.
Just show me. Okay, just show
We
me.
would-
That later.
yeah.
So I'm doing Funky Nuts, right?
Yeah.
etc. So people want to. So I'm trying to figure out how do I teach someone the desire to want to figure it out.
Oh, record player. Give them a record player.
That's what
Can you even teach that? Is that even teachable?
I had my web chord changer in my room when I was 13 years old, up on the top of the dresser.
Yep.
So I could see the grooves, get the sign light in there just right, move it over one groove at a time to learn how Tina Turner was doing this lick. And
that's awesome.
I idolized you, and I was trying to figure out this one little lick in there, and I play it over and over and over again. Then I went down to the Howard Theater for $1.50 and saw Tina Turner in Washington, D.C., 17th and T, and being literally the only, let me put it this way, the only Irish guy in the crowd. And and I got down with a drummer, Ronnie McDonald, who played with Yorma and I in our little high school band in 1958 when we had that. And so and then watched the band on stage, you know. And but without the visual, you know, I mean, you had to figure chord positions. How about that when you finally figured out, you know, Billy Butler's doing honky tonk and doing that backwards, and his guitar solo is so iconic, and honky tonk, and trying to figure out his technique up here first, and trying to figure out chord changes and progressions that you hear a guitarist use. And realizing it isn't like when you see a chord written out, it's all first position stuff down here with the corniest ass chords you could possibly come up with, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, that quest for the certain sound and execution of the way it went, you know, because nowadays there's 1,000 YouTube channels that show you how this is done, show you how this is done here, as far as they figured it, and it's. Let me tell you, it's not always right.
Well, that's what that quest, that word quest, that's where you get to find what you're made of and what you sound like. And instead of just imitating, you start finding out what you can actually bring to the table, you know?
Yeah.
That's what
it forces you to listen. It forces you to listen differently. If you're watching somebody all the time, you kind of figure out the notes, but it's all the subtlety. It's all that little bit of attack and everything. I've always thought, you know, for me, it's always been about going deep. I learned more by taking a 4-bar solo and playing it 1,000 times and listening to the guy over and over again to like really get into the subtleties and go deep into the attack, into the sound, into the pitch, into all the little things that you would never hear if you did it just a few times. So yeah, I totally agree. That forces you to really think.
And I found when, like, you know, when I used to teach, I think I learned more than my students by teaching is how I actually taught myself, you know. So it's
I just lost you. Oh, you're back.
Yeah, something just happened with my phone.
That gives me full circle back to your question about tone. I teach my students, I say, you know, there's a difference between the way you actually sound and the way you think you sound.
Yeah.
And I said, you shouldn't be picking your guitar up in front of a TV. You shouldn't be playing your Stratocaster unplugged in front of a baseball game. How can you tell what you're doing? You know, that's not practice. You know, if you don't hear how you sound, how are you going to evolve?
Yeah.
I mean, one of the greatest sonic lessons I ever got from was spending a lot of time in front of Eric Dolphy playing the bass clarinet. I mean, I'd go home and just in shock. And I'm 16 or 15, something like that. Just wondering, I mean, in front of Roland Kirk, stuffing saxophones in his mouth and playing harmony.
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, tone was everything. Wes Montgomery, I saw a bunch of times. Yep. Who was playing bass? Montgomery. What is he playing? He's playing a Fender bass. What did Nat Hentoff think about that? in downbeat. It was sacrilege. He's playing a solid body electric bass guitar in jazz. Oh my God. Oh my God. And so, but I saw all of these guys because it's such a great community in Washington, D.C. in the 60s. But I was always Chase Tone, and I tell my students now, I said, you sit down at your instrument. Don't just, I got people that come in, they sit down, they're going like this, let's God, hold it, stop, back off the coffee a minute,
Well, what I always love, like with DC, like I'm a Motown boy, and every part of the country has a groove, and like in DC, when you'd hear like that old school stuff, when it swang, but that DC go pocket beat too, and there was so much in that era that you were playing along with. It's just such a fine ingredient to grow up with, because I've always had mad respect for that DC sound rhythmically. It's got a thing about it.
Well, to me, it's tone is the seductive mistress that pulls you into a room.
And yours is so special, honestly, so unique.
It isn't just, melody, of course, and all that, but there's something about vocalist tone and sincerity in that voice that pulls you through, and that's what you're trying to do and get in your instrument, and you want to establish your tone, So, by the way,
the masters can kill you with one note.
You think
right? They can take you out with just one note. Oh, it's beautiful.
One note,
right?
Got to know how to lick it before you stick it.
Let's check this out.
Jack, you are at the forefront of the transition in music, like of bass, and you talk about like Charles Mingus, Eric Dolphy, and like from like we always kind of think about the drummers from the 60s feeding off of jazz drummers, the rock drummers from the 60s feeding off of the jazz drummers.
Oh, absolutely. Mitch Mitchell with Jimi Hendrix. Listeners, it's all jazz. And
it's Elvin Jones.
Right. It's not that heavy. Mitch and I played a bunch together. He's not hitting the drums hard.
No.
I wanted to ask you about that because
played with us, Spencer
Charlie Watts too.
It was the best drummer Jefferson Airplane ever had. All jazz. He came out of jazz school, so he didn't do foot combination stuff, and I didn't do bass foot combination stuff either. So it was a good marriage because he used the foot like a jazz drummer. He didn't use it just to bang away at quarter beats. But for instance, so here I got this bass here.
Sounds amazing.
That sounds great. Hey,
amazing.
That's not. Can you, Jack? Because I toured with the Experience Hendrix tour, with Mitch Mitchell for years, and there was a lot of cool stories, and I was wondering if you could take us down memory lane a little bit with you and Mitch and Jimmy and doing some of the stuff.
Okay, I'm gonna have to edit.
Don't edit. Don't edit.
No, you don't have to edit. I mean, I've because Mitch and I were very close, and I've heard a few great stories.
Yeah, at Tanglewood, we played the Who.
Yeah.
Jefferson Airplane.
Oh, you know what, Jack? Could you bring your microphone a little bit closer? I want to hear you a little bit more.
How's this?
That's better.
Yeah, that's better.
All right. So we're at Tanglewood, and I don't know when this is, 70 or something, 60. I can't remember. And in any case, we do all the show, we do all that blah blah. So we're afterwards, the show's over. In those days, in those days, we traveled with a lot of paraphernalia. and one, we always kept a room. There was Mr. Victor who traveled with us for a period of time. And Mr. Victor had his own room. Mr. Victor was brought into the room in the afternoon and packed in ice and put in a tub, He got a little frosty. And so after Tanglewood,
That's the wet room. There's the dry room and the wet room.
And so we're in this room, and it's let's see. Oh no, this is another story. This isn't about me.
Yeah.
This is about
the edit.
This is about
That's it.
The Who's drummer.
We kept it on ice. That's
the Who's drummer, Keith. Here we go.
Keith Moon. There's
Keith, we got
no rules
Graham
there.
We got Bill Graham on the floor, Keith on the floor, Jack on the floor, Yorma on the floor. I think Lardner, our road manager, on the floor, and Mr. Victor's is got tubes coming out, going down the hallway. Mr. Victor, by the way, is that diamond that was on the nitrous oxide tank. So the nitrous oxide tank was about this fall, with on the back.
You guys were getting dental work, right? Dental work.
It's a drummer story. Give me a break. Okay. So in any case, as is the wont with those kind of things, you drift off into your own never land, and with your teeth clenched around the neoprene hose. And usually, if your roadie is on top of his game and he's not involved himself, then it comes along with a pair of snippers and cuts it off when you won't let go of the tube to pass it. And anyway, so let's get. That's a little story there. But getting back to Mitch Mitchell, Mitch, I thought if you listen back to the classic recordings of Jimi Hendrix, or those recordings he made, and you listen to his drumming, it's really amazing. And when I played with him, when they played and came up through the Fillmore, and Bill was our manager, and we practiced at the Fillmore all the time, it's 68, we all became really good friends. Jimi Hendrix, a very sweet and gentle man. And Mitch Mitchell and I became good buddies. And I just loved his drumming, the way it approached it. I mean, you can hear what's going on in that 15-minute cut that we did. It was start out to be a simple blues song. It's 7 a.m. We dropped in to what is now Electric Ladyland Studio, but back then it was whatever it was. And Jimmy was recording a double album that he didn't know was going to be a double album. Yorma and I and the Airplane had played the Dick Cavett show, and we'd recorded around the corner and recorded earlier that evening. And Steve Paul's Scene in New York was the place to go for after hours and late stuff. And there was a new band coming in town from England we all wanted to hear, called Traffic. And so we went over there at 1:30 in the morning, or I don't know, 10 at night. I mean, and Yorma and I, in those days, we never went anywhere. I had my bass, that Starfire bass with me. Yorma had his guitar. We never went anywhere without those instruments. In any case, we went and listened to him, and it was great. And Jimi Hendrix came in on a break towards the end of their set, toward the end of the evening, and he was recording around the corner. And Jimmy and I and Mitch, we knew each other from years before at the Fillmore, and had jammed a bunch of times together. So because musicians at any time, they love to meet other musicians. They love to hear other good musicians. I mean, once you get up and running, then of course your career paths take you in the direction they're going to take you. But these days, we weren't really playing that much. I mean, we'd have tours and things, but the Jefferson Airplane and Grace and Paul, they weren't tour hogs. They didn't want to go out all the time, and that gave Yorma and I opportunity, and that's how Tuna was developed and born out of all of that. But in any case, having Bill Graham as our manager for a year or so, and having that kind of access to the Fillmore and being on all these really wonderful bills and combinations of talent on stage, we knew each other. So Jimmy came in the club and with Mitch Mitchell, and after it was over, they said, "Hey, let's all go back to the studio," And so we went back, and there was probably about 17 of us or something. Most of the guys in the, Stevie Winwood, of course, and Mitchell was with Jimmy, but Stevie Winwood came back with some other people. And we watched Jimmy do some overdubs, during the night. And of course, it's already 2 in the morning. And Jimmy, we all know so much about their sessions now. We didn't know at the time, But I believe Chaz Chandler had just been ushered out the door not too much earlier. And so he was running the sessions pretty much. But the sessions were very loose, and like a musician would usually run it. And along about, I don't know, 5 or 6 in the morning or something like that, we're all in the control booth. The control booth is not being used as a control booth. Let me put it this way. and everybody's jammed in there, and then some people in there. He's some overdubs he's doing behind the board, and some he's doing in studio. And then finally he just says, "Hey, let's go play a blues." So Yorma was there, but he didn't play at the time, and he still can't figure out why. What can I say? And so Mitch and I, there was a Showman amp on the floor. I just plugged into that. We didn't think we didn't think about it as making a record or anything, but the engineer, come on, Eddie Kramer was there.
Eddie Kramer, yep.
Did his best in a rather chaotic circumstances, and we're plugging in ready to play, and he's trying to be there on the moment, and so there was a Hammond B3, of course, and Steve Winwood got behind that, and I played the bass, and we ran over the changes a couple of times real quick, and we did a half a take, and somebody broke a string. I think Jimmy broke a string, restrung, did a whole take. And in that take, you can hear the way, Mitch Mitchell just plays like a madman in there, but it's not, it's music he's playing. It's thinking stuff he's doing.
Oh, man. He's such a lyrical drummer.
Yeah.
And I always thought Jimmy and Mitch had the kind of the Elvin and Coltrane relationship.
Well,
the conversation between two soloists in a way.
Yeah, absolutely, and everybody recognized that, but that's what I think gave that special sound to him, because it wasn't a heavy funk drummer mimicking stuff, it didn't get all one-sided. It's interesting. There were interesting times with having people of mixed origins in combinations. There's Booker T and the MGs did all the Stax Volt recordings. There was all that you can say, okay, I could have found a funkier drummer than a funkier bass player than Duck Dunn. I don't think so, but anyway, he had his thing, and he had his own kind of funk, and you could have put another one. You could flip these things around, but sometimes if you plot things out too carefully, then it sounds like very careful music. I don't care how it's it's still predictable. And what wasn't, Jimi Hendrix wasn't predictable in that period of time.
Never.
Really wasn't. And I think that was because of it, because the subtleties of his approach, Mitch Mitchell's approach, just, it's not that heavy. There's loud crunching going on with the guitar and things like that, but it's nothing like years later on where everybody plugs into a box. Jimmy used one little, like that. It's these things, guys.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Jack,
Mitch was
really,
about a week before he passed. I played with him with Hubert Sumlin, and we did Killing Floor, and it was like the second last date on that Hendrix tour before he had passed. I didn't see that coming. It was horrible, because it was literally on my birthday on November 12th when I got a phone call that he had passed, and it was just but I learned so much from that man, just playing with him, with the stories and his sense of humor, and what an amazing guy. It's
Hey,
Jack,
hey,
I just
Jack,
Yeah.
just your sense of melody when you play. Like, is there a particular inspiration for that?
No, I mean, you know, I mean, you know, I've always loved melody. I've always loved classical music. So I can remember hearing my first Tchaikovsky when I was 3 and 4 and 5. Melodies mean something to me. Melodies are very hard to craft. You can improvise just fine, but it ain't always saying something.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's hard to write a melody. It's hard to write, but that's why I love playing with Yorma. He writes specific music, all that finger picking composition he does are specific
Genius.
melodies. You know, we see eye to eye that way, and I play off. I'm very fortunate.
we're all very fortunate
I'm on
to
the
have
south
the
side.
two of you.
I'm on the south side of 80 here, you know, and I still get to play. So many guys my age don't, you know, or they're forced into pattern playing, or they're forced into of some kind.
Like, like your sense of melody, like you came at a time when it wasn't like you are one at the forefront of melodic bass.
Mhm.
Well, that's funny.
Expression.
There's a story. I did this gig. I had this gentleman, and I cannot remember, an African American gentleman back when I was just starting to play bass, and in Washington. He said he was one of the drummers with James Brown, and back in that day, James Brown had a lot of drummers apparently, and I don't think he recorded with him, but in any case, I hooked up with him. Don't ask me how, and he took me around a circuit. I'm 16 or so now. And he took me around a circuit, and he got me this gig with Little Anthony and Imperials. You don't remember me, but I remember you.
Oh, yeah.
And the way they worked things in those days, the guitar player, band leader, would come in a sharkskin suit. I mean, it was this, pardon the language, it was tits up. And he'd come in there, that sharkskin suit, man, slender down, and he had pointed toes, a whole deal. And he came into every town. And as Anthony would go on tour, and back in those days, a touring act, you know, you'd have Anthony and his arranger, guitarist, and he'd come into town and he'd whip a band together in every town. And you'd do a 2-week gig, you know, and that's how music was done then. You know, there weren't big concerts and things like that. And he got me this gig backing up Little Anthony. And then Little Anthony really liked me, and I didn't know why then, you know. I didn't quite get it, you know. But it was a more innocent time. And so he got me a number of different gigs that way within the community, and he got me playing a number of after-hours gospel gigs that were literally in people's basements, and after-hours club gigs that would start at 12:30 at night on a Saturday night when all the regular gigs were over, and then I'd play in the morning, and
awesome.
it'd be just like I have in a room here. I've got my I can't show you, but I've got my Hammond B3 organ right there that my parents bought in 1957.
Wow.
Right there in my living room. But anyway, I learned a lot on those gospel gigs with the minimum of instruments, and it would be like sometimes it'd be a singer and a Hammond organ. I'd be playing bass or piano, or he'd be playing drums. Simple setup stuff where it had to cover a lot of music, but I was always attracted to melody. And when I went from guitar playing to bass playing, I mean, I love guitar. Johnny Smith is one of my most favorite guitarists in the world. You know, Moonlight, Vermont, Stan Getz, give me a break.
Yeah.
That melody. I love the construction of a good melody. And to me as a bass player, for me as a bass player, not only do I like to play the melody, but that's what pulls me. I like to play songs. I don't care. I don't like to get in a room and just jam with a bunch of people. And for never and ever and ever. You know, I've got to have something to put my feet down on, you know.
Yeah.
And I've just always been attracted to it. So I talked to this guy years later that had been in one of the bands that I'd been in. And in those bands, everybody played in each other's bands. You know, I was in the Offbeats and a bunch of different ones. And I played with Danny Gatton. He's a very famous guitarist.
Amazing.
Rest in peace in Washington, D.C. He was he was a year younger than me, 16-year-old wonder kid that won banjo contest. He won guitar contest. I mean, he could play anything, violin, anything. And this one summer, I was playing 16 summer season opened up, and he called me up and says, "Listen, my bass player, and don't forget electric basses were rare. Most of the bands all had stand-up bass players. You know, back in '58, it was just starting to come in, this stuff. And the only Fender basses you saw were the ones that looked like a Telecaster bass, but that was the first Fender bass. Later on, with the sculpted back, that was the first Precision. You know, so you started to see him in some country bands because it was easy to travel on a road and all that kind of stuff. And then as you saw people start to develop it and play it like a bass guitar and not try to copy just a stand-up bass, you started seeing the instrument develop on its own. But he called me up and he said, "Jack," he says, "do you have any bass players? I'm stuck. I've got a gig. I've got a great gig, 6-week gig in a club, you know." And I said, "No, I don't know. Don't know of anybody that's available." So he called me back later on and said, "Listen, Jack, my guy's really sick. Why don't you do the gig? If you got a gig?" And I said, "I don't know how to play bass." And then, of course, the old line came up, "Hey, it's only got 4 strings. How hard can it be?" So, so anyway, I borrowed his bass, Ernie's bass, who was part of Danny's band. It was this summer of 1960. And played it for that 6 weeks in the gig, and I just fell in love with the instrument.
That's amazing.
What I fell in love with on that instrument is,
Jack, before we go further, are you good going a little 10 minutes longer? Because
I'm here.
Okay, good. Because we're going to bring in our musical guest shortly.
I have to feed Chester at 5 o'clock. That's my Cavalier King Charles, and he'll let me know at 4:55 precisely.
Beautiful.
We don't want to know who Chester is.
I do. No.
Yeah, but you know,
Mr. Victor and Chester are over in the other room.
You know, it's so interesting, the real estate that the guitar takes in the mix, opposed to the real estate the bass takes. But you take that melody downstairs. It's so brilliant.
Yeah. Well, my feeling, I mean, I just love when I get up into the cello range. I love ballet music. I go down to Constitution Hall, at Daughters of American Revolution in Washington, D.C. when I was 12, 11, 12, 13. And the cultural exchange that Jack Casady set up in 62, the Boshawa Ballet come in, the Kirov Ballet come in. I saw a balalaika orchestra. Man, you got 8 balalaikas on stage.
Wow.
No sound reinforcement. All playing the same thing. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
But you move from that bass range up into the cello range, and that really got me. That range. Yeah. You know? The fact that you could do that and then hit that following and hit that following knocks me out.
Well, the cool thing too is like you and Yorma, because you have those undertones like you were talking about earlier, that you're building this root that you can create this melody around, and Yorma with his right hand does the same thing, how he can articulate and play. And I've seen you two so many times together in that magic that you both have in that style, unique style. It's brilliant to me. And it just really, the voicings are all there. And it's like you play to the song.
That's orchestration. So part of that I loved about orchestra is with the assignment that the melody was given to different parts of the orchestra. It knocked me out. The brilliance of a Prokofiev when he put together that music, when you listen to it in front of you, where they feel the air moving and all that. It's just something that you'll never get from a record or recording.
Yeah.
But that's stuff that Yorm and I still work on today, is the fact that I could have an acoustic bass now. Oops, let me turn this one off. The art that what got me when Yorm started playing acoustic guitar and I'd play with him, I'd plug in my Starfire bass and a little amp built into a Halliburton flight case, pilot case, with a little Jensen 8-inch speaker in it, all this kind of stuff. We built out the Limbic guys, we built that for me. And just so I could play with that. And on the first record that we did, 1970, I used the Starfire bass through the Versatone amp, which is basically a hi-fi amp. It's a dual 35-watt amp. And the whole idea was to get a pure tone that would mix well with an acoustic guitar. Now I finally have an acoustic bass here with the Diana bass series. So when I'm going, that's what I play in a song that he called "Been So Long" that we do in a Hot Tuna repertoire. So I would try, because he's got the thumb going on, the beat's there, the rhythm's there. That releases me from doing. Yeah. And so now I can go. And I can start to use, I can use the speaking length of the string to lighten up so I don't wipe them out with a bass note. It's so easy when you're working with acoustic guitar. So I get a chance to really work with the dynamics of the instrument. And I'll use these light notes here. And lately, the last 10 years of playing these instruments that I had made by Tom Rebecki in honor of my late wife, Diana, I wanted to develop an instrument that would hold its own across from an acoustic guitar and be a bass guitar that you didn't feel like you had to plug in.
Right.
They all sound like that. I mean, I've got a Guild B30 flat top in there, and I play it in a short scale. But the thing is, it just doesn't cut it in the room. This actually sounds like a bass in the room.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And so So, as I was saying, having the material, going back to it, a musician having the material to work with is everything. I mean, it isn't about you sitting alone in your room thinking up really fancy licks and shit.
No.
Because it's not.
It's about playing to the song.
It's when you come together to make music with others, it means something.
Well, yeah, it's like someone memorizing the dictionary and think they can have a good conversation because they got a lot of words in their head.
Yeah, exactly.
So true.
I always say, like you were talking, Kenny, you talking. I always say, when Yorm and I play together, first of all, it's always serious. We're there that night to play the best we can play.
Yeah.
It requires you that night to listen to each other. We're not playing an arrangement that we learned as kids.
Yeah.
We're not up there bored playing. It's all about the uniqueness of the evening, little inflections here, tempos shift and change and things like that. Everything makes it
amazing.
A little bit different for you to tap into for that evening, to make it special for that evening only. And that's my job, is to not block myself out from my own self that evening.
It's the true spirit of jazz. It's
of course
it's like being like a Billie Holiday ethic.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You guys, I want to bring in our guests just out of respect. We're going like, you know, until Chester is calling. We're good here too. But
I'll make sure Chester has a cameo before we sign off.
I want to bring in Niko, who's been very patient, waiting in the woods with his guitar. I met Niko the other night, actually. I went to the Mint on Pico and Crescent Heights and went in just to pop in and hang out with Todd. And Niko was there. Niko, turn your phone. It's sideways.
Sideways?
Yeah, just turn it and then turn it back.
Oh, you're good.
Now turn it back. There you go. And so we met at the Mint, and I said, "Hey, man, you guys sound really amazing. You should come join us on the Rock and Talk show." Here's Niko. But before we do that, how are you and where are you, Niko?
I'm amazing. I'm still on the road after a gig. I'm in Old Town Monrovia.
Okay.
Out by Arcadia.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nice. Well, say hello to Jack Casady. And Jack, while we're sitting here, I just want to say this is so special, and thank you for joining us on the Rock and Talk show. You mean so much to all of us, and me personally. I mean, I've had the opportunity to see you play live countless times. We have a lot of mutual friends. Little Feat, just saw you at the Ace Hotel with Little Feat. I had my dad there. He was blown away. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for all your contributions to my life and the world, you know, over the years with both Jefferson and Hot Tuna. And
everybody should check out Jack's new record he's done with all these amazing people too.
Yeah. And I've got something in the works, but we all know what that's like today. You know, I've got 19 songs ready to go. Where?
Yeah, we always got something brewing.
Hey, put it out there. Put it out there.
The other night, there's 5,000 releases every week. I figure that's really conservative.
Yeah. It's an ADD world now out there, the way they've created this.
I remember back in the day, some wag saying, "Gee, wouldn't it be great if everybody could play?" Well, guess what?
Yeah.
Jack, you said something earlier about being fortunate to play on a lot of different bills with some of the great musicians. I mean, honestly, I feel like you've played on the greatest bills in history, from Monterey Pop. Like, what was that? Like, you were at Monterey Pop.
Monterey Pop was fabulous. First of all, for me, it was really a kick because I got to see some cats that I had always wanted to see, Booker T and the MGs with, of course, Otis Redding. And believe me, every musician was sitting out in front watching everybody else play all weekend. But you know, you got Ravi Shankar. It was really the template for an educational music weekend. Because so many of those people wouldn't have individually gone to the different styles of music out there. And so over the weekend, it was a real education for so many people. But for me, it was just a chance to see friends and talk to people and see musicians and that I'd always want to see. I mean, I still got my 45 Green Onions upstairs, you know that. So, you know, I wanted to see these guys. I want to see Steve Kropp and Duck Dunn and Al Jackson and all those guys play up on stage, you know.
Booker T was such an amazing songwriter and producer. A lot of stuff that he did that people don't even know, even like Bill Withers. Better Off Dead. He wrote and produced that. And
amazing. And then, of course, Woodstock. Were you on the train across Canada, or were you guys not on?
Festival Express?
No,
yeah.
No.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen. So, Niko, tell us a little bit about you and what you got going on, and then sing us something.
All right. I'm from Maine originally. I moved out here like 4 or 5 years ago on like a little cross country bicycle trip, and got dragged to LA by a friend of mine who produces music. Got a job out here, so kind of got happily stuck in LA right in time for the pandemic, which is great. So
nice.
So clearly, I've got a lot going on, like all of us right now, right?
So what do you got? You're going to sing something now. Is this an original tune? Tell us what you're going to sing?
Oh, I'm gonna pull out an old song that I think people like best, and really was kind of a good motivation for me moving out here. Good travel song. It's called New Life.
Okay, cool. Well, go ahead. We'll see how it sounds, and hopefully it'll sound really good, but the stage is yours.
Hoping for the best. Thank you so much. Keep on running around. There's no time for you to settle down, and sometimes life gets in the way. But we want more than just to stay alive. Hopes and dreams from which you feel deprived, and it's all just vanity. But I could really do with some new life that as of now is too far out of sight. Yeah, you could really use some new life. 'Cause when you close your eyes, you know you can still see the light. But you get lost looking for what you had found. Forget how many times that you've been around. Well, you thought you knew what's best. But every day in the same way, the news is always losing, so what do you say? Well, if you're not losing, you're surely winning the game. Games, but I could really do with some new life. And as of now, it's too far out of sight. Yeah, you could really use some new life. 'Cause you want new wrong, and you sure as hell you want new right.
Yeah.
All right.
That sounded good, actually.
Nice.
Yeah, it sounded great.
Yeah, and it didn't clip at all either. The sound was great.
No, it sounded great. And you were talking about seeing the light, and the light reflection behind you was shining through. Like,
I know, right?
Cool.
I know, perfect frame.
You plan that.
That was perfect frame. I'm like, whoa, good shot.
Working with what I can. I found that original audio setting too. So thank you, Jack, for that. I think it was Jack.
Yeah.
That was Jack.
That was great, man.
So what do you got going on? Like what's your dream? What's your vision? What are you trying to do?
Yeah.
My dream, my vision, living it, man. Getting other people to hopefully see it too. In 2.5 years now, two-ish years, I'm gonna bike across all of Europe.
Wow.
That's my dream. I'm working on a book right now for the first trip, as well as I have an unreleased record from the bike trip.
Nice.
I would love to get some collaboration on it, because that's the spirit of the record. It's going to be called Homage, and it's all like juxtapositions and songs created out of people that I highly admire that don't necessarily have songs.
Cool.
So yeah.
All right.
Just writing music.
Scotty,
awesome.
you're on mute. Scott, you're on mute.
I was going to say you should tokenize your trip. That way, because if you're going to go on cross, that's a perfect way to tokenize it, tie it to your record, and generate some revenue on that trip, my brother.
Yeah, Scott. Yeah, for sure. I did the first go around. So my first record was called "The Pursuit Is Happiness," and I hooked up with a charity back in Maine, a Grateful Dead charity called Go Big for Hunger, and teamed up with him to give a percentage of every record I sold while I was traveling across America to the Hungry Children Foundation that he runs. And I mean, I've raised him, a couple $100 through the sales of the records, which meant the world to me. And that's the kind of thing that I would love to compound in the next, because I don't necessarily want to tokenize myself, but I would love to give back and to like share in the process with people.
Be a perfect way to do that, though. Through the NFT, you could do that really credible, because that's a long trip and you could make that happen.
Everyone here is very much into philanthropy on many different levels. So, Jack and Yorma have the Fur Peace Ranch, and pretty amazing, do a lot of amazing work out there. And
that warms my heart.
We've got a music school that we're building in Watts, all of us, along with Norwood and Flea from the Chili Peppers. So we're all really trying to, there's something very selfish about philanthropy, is that it feels really good.
The altruistic, what do they call that? The altruistic hedonist.
David, do me a favor and shoot me an email about some of that for me.
I will, absolutely.
I might have some.
Yeah.
I might have some instruments up there that I could donate.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Awesome.
Absolutely will, for sure.
I know. Well, this has been so good. I mean, what an amazing show. This has been an honor to meet you, Jack Casady, and a fellow Irishman. And Niko, that was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I mean, this really has. I mean, we could go on for days.
I'm having a blast.
I felt like I was getting a master class from Jack. I was like, oh, let's get that.
I wish we were all, like Jack said earlier, I wish we were all in the same room.
Well, Yorma invited us all out to the Fur Peace Ranch. I think that maybe we all sort of plan a trip where we're all out there for fun, for collaboration, and for the Rock and Talk Show. We'll do one in person with both of you guys, which would be incredible.
We got to jam. We got to play.
Our minds think within, I think it was within 2 weeks of each other, of the pandemic starting 2019. I remember we got off the road. We were in Colorado. We came back 2019. At the beginning of 2019, and we got back from tour March 3rd, and everything shut down March 5th. And about 3 weeks or a couple, I don't know, maybe a month later and all that, I'm looking on the RV sites. Yorma's looking on RV sites. He buys the RV. I bought an RV, and I went out there 4 times during the pandemic. A 2,000 and change ride, a 2,000-mile ride out there back and forth. So that we could, first of all, it was great during the pandemic. Didn't stay at a hotel, stayed in my RV, felt safe and all that kind of stuff. We met and he put 50 shows up on YouTube through the Fur Peace Ranch during that pandemic period, and I participated in about, I don't know, 15 of them. And but where there's a will, there's a way to play. And so I tell my bass students, get a set of wheels because you're going to have to go to where the music is.
Yeah.
That's so true. That's so
Yeah.
You do. Got to be mobile.
Yeah, I just did 32 states in 42 days. Just got home.
Well, you're still young, buddy.
Yeah.
He could keep on going.
I'm 55. I'm born in 67, and you got your career started in the 50s, man. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yorm and I have been playing together since 1957, actually.
I knew
just
it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's just unbelievable.
You're cracking me up because you were
French.
talking about playing with Ravi Shankar, all those legends that were at that festival. And Yorm and I were in Nashville, and he was opening up for Derek and Susan at the
Tedeschi Trucks. We just
Tedeschi Trucks thing, and Nora Jones was there. And so me and Yorma were like, Nora, can we do a photo with you? And of course, we have Nora in between me and Yorma. He still hasn't emailed me the photo yet because I'm like dying to see that.
He said he would. And then I was just with Kenny Gradney the other night and told him that we were going to have you on, and he said to send his love. So.
Oh, great. Good deal.
Yeah.
This was a great show.
Thank you, Jack. Again, thank you. I will email you.
Well,
thank
this is fun. Anytime you want to do it, since it's set up my shop here and all of that, I'm all for doing it any old time.
Well, we would love to have you back because
please.
we just scratched the surface tonight.
Yeah, and we'd love to make some timeless music with you. That would be.
I'm such a nutcase about this stuff. See, for teaching, I set this up with an ATM Mini Pro, and I had to learn about this stuff. The learning curve was a little bit. But I got it together. So we're working here.
It sounds great. It sounds amazing.
Then I get this camera angle.
Oh, look at that.
Wow.
Oh, that's amazing right there.
Do they have to pay extra for that?
That's pretty cool.
Sure.
That's awesome. Wow.
Now, let me speak to you, Norwood, about when you play with a sax player, all of a sudden you're in E flat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if you're helping him out.
Now, there's something to be said for those closed position keys, absolutely. You think different, a little different position, all that kind of stuff. So then, this is the one I like. Then on this side, and of course, then I can get.
Amazing.
That's a great view. I mean, that's awesome, especially for you to be able to learn.
This is the one I really like. See, that dates me. Here, you can see the top of my bald head.
The bird's eye view.
That's great.
Perfect.
Jack, you also said something earlier that I thought was cool. With your left hand is what you know, and your right hand is who you are. Yeah. I think your entire being, your sound, everything is your right hand. I mean, you are the music and the sound, and it's just been incredible to just hang with you today. So thank you again. Wow.
Yep.
That's been amazing.
So we will all connect, and Jack, you can reach out and love to talk to you further.
Yes.
I would say, what do we, again, thanks to our guests, and our next show will be in a couple weeks.
Yep. Thanks, Niko. You go.
Yes, thank you,
man.
Niko. Sounded awesome, brother.
You guys don't leave. We're just going to play our outro, but don't leave. Okay. And we're going to wrap this show up right here. And here we go.
Give me some snare drum.
See you next time on the Rock and Talk Show Beyond Backstage with your hosts, Norwood Fisher, Kenny Olson, Scott Page, Stephen Perkins, Sheila Conlon, and David Moss. Executive producers, Sheila Conlon and David Moss. Producer and director, Eric Lloyd. Assistant producer and creative director, Mark Armentano. Editor, Graham Cooper. Theme music by ThinkX. Sponsors, IK Multimedia and Lewitt Microphones. Artist Relations, TPI Films. Special thanks to From the Earth, ThinkX, The Conlon Company, and Mac. Check us out on YouTube/The Rock and Talk Show. Facebook and Instagram at The Rock and Talk Show.
And until the next show, let's keep rocking and keep talking.